All right, we'll start off here real quick with two jokes, the quick ones here. So it says, so I went to the telescope shop. I will tell you what, they saw me coming from a mile away. And then this one's for Andy. It says, I lost my wife over my gambling addiction. One day I'm going to win her back. All right, let's open up in prayer here, and we'll finish my lesson about how it's easy to be a Christian. So, dear Jesus, thank you for the lovely weather that we've been having. It's always nice, and just thank you for all your many blessings that you give to us. Thank you for this church, that it's still going after all these years, a place we can come and hear your word, pretty much free from persecution, but just thank you for everything. We've been having a lot of problems and issues, but we do need to stop and remember all the blessings that you do give to us. So thank you for that, and I also think of Cammie and little Doug. I pray you'll be with them and just comfort her and be with little Dougie and just that whole situation, and give the doctors wisdom, and if it be your will, and if it be your will to do a miracle and heal little Dougie and help him get better, but please be with them. Please continue to be with my mom and her health. Just bless her, and thank you for all that she does for us, and I pray in your name, amen. All right, so last time, which wasn't that long ago, we'll rehash the first couple of ones, but talking about some major issues that, some are bigger than others, but, that people argue about online, or just in real life debate and stuff. Let me pull it up here. And we're going to run through the ones we taught real quick. I won't go over them very quickly. But again, the title is, it's easy being a Christian. There's a lot of topics you don't got to sit there and fret over or worry about or bite your nails. I still bite my nails, but not because I'm paranoid or anything. But of course, the first major topic we had talked about was the environment, and we'll look at the verse 2. I had 4 more after the 5 that we did last time, so we'll just go over it really quick. But the environment's a hot topic these days, whether it's hot or not. But it rages. Our children's and children's children and the pets and the dogs and whatever. But again, we don't need to necessarily worry about that. But Revelation chapter 21, verse 1, we went over this, but it says, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. So as Christians, should we trash the earth? Absolutely not. We should take care of what God gave us, but at the same time, we shouldn't sit there and have that consume our life about, saving all the animals that go extinct, or saving all the sea turtles from the soda pop things and stuff like that. But again, we should be good stewards of the earth, but we know that it will not last. There will be a new heaven and there will be a new earth, and this earth will be burnt up with fire. So that should not, as Christians especially, should not be a major focal point of our lives, the environment. So that was number 1. Number 2 was eating meat. That's a big one. I know Emma's a vegan, and now that she's in Tennessee. But that's a big one. People, oh, they're so cute, and how could you do that? But again, we could look at the Bible and say, well, the Creator said it's okay to eat it, so I really could care less about what you think. It tastes good, it's good for you. But again, there's the Creator said we could do it, so that doesn't that's all that matters. Let's go to Genesis chapter 9. But again, you see people fighting over that, saving the animals, and what's the that, and they're constantly fighting for the animals. And that's funny. Well, that's not funny, but it's amazing how much people care more about animals than they care about human life. Especially, it's like, and you always see that people will cry, at a dog movie, a dog dies, but then baby gets murdered, or some whole town gets slaughtered, and that means nothing to them. But it's always the dog died. Shannon. just gotta look over at her, just crying. I'm like, it's just a movie. We don't need to be, But or even in real life, yeah, it's like you see the gorilla or whatever. People were more upset about the gorilla dying, than the child and stuff. But it is, you have a lot of real life examples of where it's like people get more upset that an animal was killed to save a life. The animal's only doing what it naturally does, and stuff like that. But Genesis chapter 9, and I am not there. Give me a second, my Bible's falling apart here. Genesis chapter 9, in verse 2. And it says, we'll just read verse 3 there. It says, every moving thing that liveth shall be meat for you, even as the green herb have I given you all things. So again, God condoned it after the fall of man, and so it is good. So we don't have to listen to anybody saying, we shouldn't eat meat and sometimes they throw that into the environment too, all the cow farms, and stuff like that, and all the gases and all that, and it's like, no thank you. I'll be enjoying my meat over here. But again, that's a big topic online, people fight over. But as Christians, boom, you go right to the source. God says it's okay. So that's a settled topic. Mike. Wait, let me get my earplugs.
That next verse 4, but flesh with the life thereof, which is the blood thereof, shall ye not eat?
Yes, so we should not be eating the blood.
Or does that refer to human blood? Eating humans, cannibalism?
Or cats and dogs.
I would assume it's in the same. Obviously, the verse before, it's right next to each other. I don't think you would say that would be talking about cannibalism and eating humans. I would say that's the blood of animals, Pastor.
Some people will say, well, originally Adam and Eve were vegetarians or just not carnivores, so we need to go back to the beginning, and they think somehow that's more pure eating, fruits and vegetables. But they're not factoring in sin.
Well, yeah, and we will, but that's not now. But yeah,
you can't go back to the Garden of
Yeah.
and justify it. But some do.
Yeah.
Think, well, that was the best because that was what God originally intended. But they don't factor in the fact that there was sin.
It was a fruit that caused all this problem.
Yeah. And a certain gender. We'll get into that. Don't you worry about it. I got. But yeah, obviously, when we get to heaven, yes, we will revert back. But God, yes, obviously, it's bad that that sin happened and what happened. But God condoned it. God gave His blessing and said, now you can eat meat. And so that's the way we should continue until we get to heaven. And yes, we won't be eating meat in heaven. But yeah, so on that topic, we shouldn't have to sit there and worry about ordering a steak or something and looking over our shoulder or anything like that. But the third topic that obviously is a major topic is we talked about was alcohol. Just online debates. Is it good for you? Is it not? Whether it's atheists arguing with atheists or Christians arguing with atheists, a whole bunch of different groups. Again, it's consumed a lot in the world. But again, is alcohol good or bad? And obviously, let's turn to the Creator to find out what does He have to say about it. But let's go to Proverbs. There's a lot of verses in the Bible. And again, it's amazing. Proverbs chapter 20. It's amazing how things can be so clearly, but again, sin and the devil and people love to take things and twist it, and you have people that will take the Bible and prove that drinking alcohol is okay. And again, we talked about it last time, but let's read the verse. Proverbs chapter 20 and verse 1 says, wine is a mocker, strong drink is raging, and whosoever is deceived thereby is not wise. Again, very, very simplistic. You can't sit there and be like, what is strong drink? That's your hard alcohols, your whiskey, your rum and stuff like that. And wine, we know what wine is. Yes, Mike?
Yeah, we were down in Milwaukee last night. This is a prime example of this. We were leaving the venue where we were at. There was this drunk guy who kept singing, trying to sing a song to Al. And
Whoa.
so Aunt Kelly and me.
Were you carrying Al just in case?
Just to prove that it was bad for his health, I was 20% of me wanted to go over and knock him on his back end.
No.
But I didn't, but that could have been very bad for his health. It
Yeah.
continued, so.
Yeah. And again, obviously we have God says, it's bad. And again, you have people arguing. You have those people that barely know anything about the Bible. You're like, oh, it says wine, take a little. And again, that's, ignorance where they don't have an understanding of the Bible and they just take the surface of it. And again, that's where discernment, we talked about last time, having discernment. Sometimes when you step back and look at it, be like, well, boy, that seems like that's what that means, wine, alcoholic wine, take a little, but it's like that's what discernment is, getting in there. And God gave us all a brain, some common sense, logic, discernment. And when you read it, you're like, he's not talking about alcoholic wine. God isn't double-minded where he says it's bad for you, but take a little bit for your stomach's sake. That's a contradiction. You can't have both. You can't say it's bad, don't do it, and then say, yeah, sure, take a little bit for your stomach's sake. That's a contradiction. Yes, Ryan?
We say that a lot in church, that wine in the Bible can mean alcoholic and also non-alcoholic. A verse that proves that happens to be in Proverbs also. Proverbs 3:10 says, so shall thy barns be filled with plenty, and thy presses shall burst out with new wine. You press grapes, you don't get an alcoholic
Yeah.
wine, you get grape juice.
Yeah.
So that verse proves that the Bible uses that word as
Yeah.
alcoholic sometimes and non-alcoholic.
Mhm.
You gotta look at the context.
And so again, obviously a lot of us know this, but again, you have people, and again, if you're a newer Christian or a Christian that doesn't get in their Bible often, a lot of times Christians stumble because you have some smart aleck that will be online or whatever, and Christians will get tripped up because they don't have discernment or they're not in their Bibles a lot, to where then they fall down, and stumble because they don't. And well, maybe he's right. That makes sense, And so we have to be careful. The devil is the devil for a reason, and he's deceiving, and he's a sly old fox, and he knows how to take things and twist it. And again, it's amazing. Just in life in general, just a lot of things, how you could take things and you can twist them and basically make them make people believe what you want. So alcohol, a very big topic, but again, God says it's not right. Don't do it. And so that should be the end of the story for Christians. Next one we talked about was racism. Obviously, that's a hot topic. Who's the best? So I think if we just have a competition across the board, everybody gets together and we just see, let's just settle it.
Firearms or not?
What?
Using firearms?
Well, we'll put that in a small print. Be like, you guys didn't know you could bring guns? Be like, well, boy, it's gonna be tough for you. Hey, I mean, you brought a club to this fight? Like, oh man, I'm gonna stay away from you. But anyhow, racism is a big topic, and it has been for a long time. And again, has everybody enslaved every group of people? Pretty much everybody has. Some people get browbeaten more than others about it, but again, I like that verse. I didn't have it last time, but we'll look at it. Let's go to Acts chapter 17 about racism. And again, let me go back here. Acts chapter 17 in verse 26. That was Casey or Tian had brought up. But yeah, I like this one. Acts chapter 17, verse 26, and it says, and hath made of one blood all nations of men, for to dwell on all the face of the earth, and hath determined the times before appointed, and the bonds of their habitation. Who does God want to be saved and go to heaven? He wants everybody, and we've all been in that place. I'm better than that person, or whether it's a different race, or maybe this person's homeless, or whatever, and we all do it. Sometimes, you got to step back, and, or somebody annoys you, and you're like, man, I don't know if I could, learn to love that person. But again, I mean, like, oh boy, that person's hard to love. But again, God commands us in the Bible to love everyone. And what's the verse about getting along or being peaceful with all men or something like that? I forget. But that one, you know of that one. But again, and there are times that can't be done. But again, to sit there and say I'm better than this race of people is not right, and it's against the Bible. And yes, Pastor.
Are you saying that Juan and myself are blood brothers?
Well, you're gonna have to get a tattoo, Dad, first. But then, yeah.
That sounds like heresy.
But again, that's a big topic, and there's cultures that are very prideful and that says we're better than others. And throughout history, we've seen wars started over that. And again, we have that kind of ties in. We'll talk about evolution, where we are superior to it because we're farther advanced than you are. But again, I think we joke a lot. But again, we love to joke, and I think that's fine to an extent. Do we take it a little far? Sure, sometimes. But, it happens. But again, we like to joke. And again, I don't hate anybody. I like everybody. But again, it's not wrong to point out sin and wrongdoing from groups of people. Now, if you're saying, I just hate those people and I'm going to nitpick, but there's nothing wrong with saying this group of people is doing wrong and evil. That's not being racist. That's making a ooh, you're putting me on the side. Jonathan, you want to take this one? No, but again, yeah. And there's that. There's a whole sort of different one. Throughout history, again, we're better than this group of people, or we hate these people and we're going to exterminate them, or whatever the case may be, or we just want their land and we want their resources. But again, it's not right and it's wrong. We should love everybody, and we should look at everybody as God looks at them. They're a soul that is going to spend eternity somewhere, someday. And sometimes we don't do that. We look at the outside. God says, I look on the inward. And a lot of times we're very superficial. We look at the outside. Boy, that person's ugly. Oh, that person's got too many... that person's wearing glasses, no. But again, sometimes, we look to be like, boy, or, maybe they have some handicaps or something like that. And we just kind of, and that's a wrong spirit and a wrong attitude to have, where we're very judgmental and be like, but God died for everyone. And we should look at that person and say that person has a soul and they're going to spend eternity somewhere and they need the gospel no matter what, whether I like them or not. Yes, Keegan.
I don't.
Is it controversial?
No, it's not controversial. I just don't know if group's the right word to say. Sin's very
Universal?
personal. It's individual. God judges nations.
Yeah.
It's our place to judge nations.
Yeah.
God collectively, when the individual sin grew so much, God would judge nations.
Yeah.
But I don't know if that's our place to judge a nation. It's more so we can point out individual sin and collective individual sin, but it's always individual sins, not group it together. Well, all those people are.
Yeah.
I disagree. I disagree.
This is the review. Yeah. This is the review.
And I get what you're saying, Keegan, but the first thing I think of is like ISIS.
Yeah.
Like the terrorist groups out there, Hezbollah, and then you got like Palestine. This country's being torn apart in our universities because of these people supporting a terror organization. Palestinians.
Yeah.
So.
And I think, yeah, I agree with Keegan to an extent, But I think sometimes we're too
Well-
cautious about. But it's a teaching example of, and sometimes we just kind of like, oh, we don't want to talk about it, but evil is evil, and if someone is doing evil, you want other people to know, because it's like, and I guess we could relate this to. I guess we could relate this maybe to like politicians or something. Sometimes as Christians, we're just like, oh, but I want to know. Wouldn't you want to know if a politician was maybe doing bad things with kids? I think that's something you would want to know, and you would want to tell that to other people. Say, and again, I guess you would.
Politicians, though.
Huh?
Doesn't mean all politicians.
No, I know, but I'm saying is sometimes we just, well, I support that guy, and they're, but I want to know what that man's doing, because if he's doing evil, I want to know, and I would like to let other people know, to say, hey, should we throw our support behind someone that is doing absolute evil and abomination to an extent?
Like to say, like, all Irishmen are drunk.
I'm not saying that, but I'm saying,
Or,
I was just saying, like,
I know a lazy Italian, and he sits on the porch, doesn't do anything. And all Italians are lazy and they don't work.
no.
But I agree with what he's saying. There are groups like ISIS and Hezbollah. Their whole ideology is evil, but I agree with.
And I agree with
I'm
Keegan
just
to an
trying to
extent.
straddle
But
the
I
line.
feel like sometimes, especially these days, Christians do not call out sin and wickedness and evil. Maybe it's somebody they like. Maybe it's, well, or I'm backing this person. I think sometimes we sit there and we kind of know, but we don't want to know. And I think that's wrong as a Christian to say, I know there's the verse in the Bible that says, you want to be, what's the word? Not all the nitty gritty details, but I do want to know if someone's doing an abomination where I'm like, and mark that man or that person and say, as Christians, should we back this person, or should we throw our support behind that person for what they're doing, and just say, well, there's some things I like about them. I don't know. Maybe we're getting a little bit off a topic, but again, I agree a little bit with from both. Oh, Jonathan.
On this,
Where-
I think if we take it from a little bit different direction, we could even judge, for instance, we as Baptists or as Christians in general, we get baptized. So therefore, we are telling everybody, it's not, people have died and been martyred for being baptized. It's not being dunked in waters, identifying with the Christ, the Son of God. I am in Christ. I identify with Him. So therefore, judge me upon that identification. I am Christian. Therefore, we are asking them to judge us. Say, I am a Christian. I'm being judged by this. I identify with Him. In a similar way, a Muslim person, whether they're a good Muslim or a bad Muslim, they are identifying with being Muslim. So we are judging them and not hating, but judging and saying, you say you're Muslim, so therefore you believe, and your Quran says this and this and this, and I can't agree with that. That's wrong. And they'll go, oh, actually, I'm not a good Muslim. I'm not like that Muslim. Like, okay, then you have shown yourself. So that's we're not hating an entire group. So we don't hate all Muslims, but we do hate the sin or hate the wrong.
Yeah.
We, like
And again,
your belief system is flawed. So I am going to judge you if you're identifying with that group,
Yeah.
if you're Muslim or if you're Hindi or if you're whatever. But so that's
Yeah.
that's
No,
my perspective.
I agree with you.
We want people to
And again,
like
yeah.
us as Christians.
Yeah.
I'm not like you,
Yeah.
but I'm not like you because I identify with
Yeah,
Christ.
and I agree with you. We tend to take the person and say whatever. If you want to say Islam, we know is not right and wrong, and it's of the devil, and we see them as one. And I think that's what you're saying. Where that person, it's a soul, and we're not supposed to hate that person. We're we're supposed to hate sin and not the person, like Pastor has said so many times. So yeah, sometimes I think we kind of put them together, and we kind of hate that person and we hate the sin that they're doing, and that's wrong. We shouldn't be hating the person. And again, are they deceived? Absolutely. But were we all deceived at one point? Absolutely. Before we came to the truth and getting saved and stuff, we're all born into sin, and unless someone comes along and tells us about the Savior, we're a darkness. And sometimes we do that. It's a pride thing where we look at those people and be like, how can they believe that? It's so stupid. I mean, you could see it as clear as day. But boy, the devil is powerful, and it's like, deceiving and propaganda and stuff is very powerful stuff. And I do it myself too. And I'm like, how can somebody believe that? Sometimes you got to step back and be like, boy, I believe some different things than I did, even 5 years ago. And, I've kind of seen some things and be like, boy, that's not right. And I've changed my position on that. But again, yeah, sometimes it's pride, oh, how can they be that dumb? But boy, it's like we've all been at that place at some point in our lives until someone, by the grace of God, came along and told us about Christ and, opened our eyes and we trusted Jesus Christ as, our Savior. Yes, Tracy.
By that reasoning, I would certainly hate for all Christians to be judged based on my behavior.
No.
But that happens all the time. I mean, how many times at work, the guys you work with, they know you're a Christian and they're like, they see you slip and it's like, oh, hey, well, this guy says he's a Christian, look what he's doing. What does that say about Christ, So it goes both ways.
It's a good check and balance. It reminds us of our testimonies.
Yeah.
This is who we identify with. So if we're true, if we're real, if we're real Christians, it's like, not that we work for our sanctification or salvation or work to look like Christians, but we really need to be in Christ if we say we're in Christ, because then our testimony should be out there.
Yeah, no, I agree. All right, we kind of got on a rabbit trail. Real quick, we talked about abortion. Abortion is a huge topic. Let's go to Jeremiah real quick. Jeremiah chapter 1, very, very big topic, and an absolutely important topic. A life is on the line. So it's, where are you, Jeremiah? And again, don't worry about it if you're not getting an abortion.
773. 773.
No. Mike. Yeah, you're right, Mike. So Jeremiah chapter 1, verse 5. I'm going to send you back to the young kids group, right? It says, before I formed thee in the belly, I knew thee, and before thou camest forth out of the womb, I sanctified thee, and I will ordain thee a prophet unto the nations. It's very important. Arguments, doesn't matter. God said you're literally murdering somebody in the womb, no matter what. God says, I knew before the actual, let's say, experience happened. I knew that person. I already knew them. So that means at conception, they're a human being. End of story. That's what God said. So if you do anything, you kill it. You're killing a baby. You're not killing some clump of cells. Big topic. As for Christians, is amazing. There's Christians that believe abortion is okay or certain situations or something like that. And you have all those arguments. But God didn't say, if you find out the baby has Down syndrome, it's okay, or has a defect or anything like that beforehand, it's okay. There's nothing in there other than God says it's murder if you kill that baby in the womb. All right, so now we're getting on to the other ones. We're still making good sign. Of course, gay / transgender stuff is exploding. Has it always been around? Pretty much. But it's kind of becoming more and more prevalent or more and more accepted across the earth. Everybody's, for the most part, is kind of accepting of it. But let's look at, let's go to the Old, we're still in the Old Testament here. Let's go to Leviticus. So what does God have to say about it? You got people arguing, you got Christians, no, it's okay, God's a loving God, and it's fine, But Leviticus chapter 18, in verse 22 says, it says, thou shalt not lie with mankind as with womankind. It is an abomination. Again, there are a lot of hard things in the Bible, but there are so many simplistic things. You can't read that if you can read. That's not a hard verse to understand. It's pretty simplistic, and that's what God says. Don't do it. Love is love. Again, even from a humanistic standpoint, if everybody's gay, then the whole human race is going to go extinct. It's not natural because you look at the animals, you look at humans, you cannot survive. Well, love is love, but if everybody did it, there would be no love because everybody would be dead. But God says, nope. And again, the devil, it's like he takes things, what God created, and he twists it, and he, does wicked things with it. And so God says this isn't right. Doesn't matter if someone says, well, I really love him or love her or whatever. God says it's wrong. It's not, I just hate you as a person. It says, God says what you're doing is wrong, and it's not natural, and it's not right. That's not what I intended, not what I created you for. So let's go to one more verse. Let's go to Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. And again, they'll call you all sorts of phobias, and it's like, sign me up. If you want to make me some badges and stuff, I'll wear them. But again, they love to throw those words around. It's like try to browbeat you or make you feel bad and get you to not say anything. But it's like, I'll get a tattoo right here. Genesis chapter 1, verse, 27. Says, so God created man in his own image. In the image of God created he him, male and female created he him, or he them. Pretty simplistic, huh?
Get your pronouns right.
Yeah, sorry. But again, and as we see, transgender has become more prevalent. It kind of was just gay, and now transgenderism has come up. And this verse, applies to transgenders. It's a slap in God's face when you say, I'm a man and I'm transitioning to a woman. You're slapping God in the face and saying, you got it wrong, or, I don't feel right in my body. I feel better as a woman. It's a slap in God's face because that's the way God created you. And it's like throwing rocks at God saying, you got this wrong. I'm going to correct it. And again, we have all the stats and stuff and stuff like that. A lot of times they're miserable and the health problems and stuff like that. But it is, God says, being gay and stuff is an abomination, but transgender is, I would throw in there, is the same thing. It's an abomination because you're taking and you're changing what God created and saying you didn't do it right. So that verse is pretty clear. Female, whatever you're born with, that's what you're going to be. If you're born a female, you're a female. If you're born a male, you're a male for your entire life. And the devil's there to sit there and twist it, and, well, I just feel nobody cares about your feelings. Like Pastor says, feelings come and feeling goes, and feelings are deceiving. It's not, well, I just, you got kids, you get a little Billy Bobby Joey Johnson came to me at 5 years old. It just said he felt like a woman, a girl. And it's just like, man, should you really be a parent that you're listening to a dumb 5-year-old? But all those, it's just like, oh, they're playing with dolls. So I just knew that they were a girl. Yeah, it's like a deer caught in the headlights. I'm like, I need to start wearing a mask. But I appreciate get a replica of dad's face. It's just weird. But my point stands. Again, it's an abomination and it's an insult to God. So that was gay transgender. That's a hot topic. Next, yes.
I had read an article on that, and they were saying, obviously people, if there were any like this years ago, there's nothing they could do about it, right?
Oh, yeah.
Medical.
Yeah, and now
surgery. And of course, a lot of it is they're pushing it, and so kids they're putting it into their mind.
Oh, yeah.
It's not always the child itself that originates the idea. Sometimes it comes from the teachers, and they're really pushing this. But the other thing, I was reading this article, and they were saying, it is amazing what they can do. They can give you hormones. They can do some surgeries. Obviously, you got the scars, and it doesn't always work. And then too, you're still messed up psychologically. They can't alter your brain. But it was interesting. He was saying that there's nothing they can do about the DNA. The DNA shows you're female.
You can only do so much,
you can only do so much.
Yeah.
And at the root, at the core, at the DNA, the information, you can do nothing about that. And so they could test it like, oh yeah, you were, or whatever, are.
Yeah.
So I thought that was interesting. As much as they might try to deny the truth, or try to change God's truth, what He created them to be, they cannot eliminate and erase 100% of the evidence. They just can't. So, anyway.
But Yeah, that's a good point. And yeah, it's not always the kids, but again, kids are very impressionable, and that's what's happening today is where it's like, well, they were just all hiding because, you know, it was looked down upon, and now it's like, no, it's like because you're pushing it more. I mean, you know, if I had a classroom full of kids and be like, you know, you're all, I don't know, you're all giraffes or something. You know, you preach it long enough, they're gonna be walking around like giraffes. And, you know, so, I'm shooting for the Golden Apple Award for Teacher of the Year. No, but yeah, okay. So yeah, next big topic is. Oh, sorry. Did somebody raise their hand? Who did? Oh, sorry, I didn't see it.
They said that you put 100 men and 100 women on an island. In 100 years, you'll have a community of men and women. You put 100 men and 100 transgender women on an island. In 100 years, you'll have the skeletons of 200 men.
Yeah, I like that. That's true. And again, what it all comes down to is God's way is the best way. Next topic is the death penalty. That's a hot topic. Oh, we just need to let them stay in prison for years and years and us pay for all of it. But the death penalty is biblical. Let's look at a verse, Genesis chapter 9. We are actually already there. Genesis chapter 9. Where are we? Genesis chapter 9 and verse 6. Pretty simple. It says, whosoever sheddeth man's blood, by man shall his blood be shed, for in the image of God made he man. Again, all these verses are so simple, you know, even a young child can understand. You know, God makes it so simple that there should not be any question marks or, you know, and it's amazing how people can still twist it, but it's so simple that there should not be any discussion on it. God says if you kill a man, then your life will be taken by man too. You know, capital punishment, we all agree with that. And again, there's liberals and people and, oh, you know, they just need to throw them in jail or, you know, rehabilitate them and stuff into society and let them do it again. And then we'll try it again. And hopefully after the 5th murder, maybe we'll get them right. But again, God says if you shed man's blood, that your life is required by man. Man will take your life. So there should not be any argument by the Creator. He created us. Say, God, what do you think on this topic? Okay, he says, you know, if you kill somebody, and it would save us a lot of money, our prisons would be a little bit more emptier across the board. But again, you know, and obviously, as long as there's evidence, you know, strong evidence, you know, again, you know, however you want to do it, Mike, you know, if you want to go get yourself a rope, good old days, you know, grab him and be like, let's throw him up on a tree. But again, huh? What? That's what they did. I can't take that. But anyways, you know what I mean. A more dignified, you know, I don't know. Yeah, guillotine, stuff like that. I got 2 more. We got to finish this real quick, Juan, here. Evolution versus creation, ginormous topic. Again, you know, did we evolve? Did we not? Was there an intelligent creator? Let's look at it. Genesis again, boy, we're getting a lot of answers here in Genesis right off the bat. So if you're struggling with some of these, the first book of the Bible will tell you. Genesis chapter 1, verse 1 says, in the beginning, God created the heaven and the earth. Boom, it's a done deal. There's no need to argue about millions of years that we evolved from monkeys, you know, whatever you want to say, crystals, little organisms, and stuff like that. God said he created this world. Makes sense. You look around. Again, it's amazing how people can look around and be like, nope, this just happened by chance. It's amazing. And that shows you the power of the devil and deceiving. Again, you can talk about that. People have a lot of books on it. You can have plenty of messages on it. It's a big topic, creation versus evolution, Christians against atheists arguing about how this world got here. Again, we could talk about that forever. But last one, life and death. Again, it's been going on forever, talking about what happens after we die. Let's look at, we got 2 verses and we'll be done. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4. Let's go to the New Testament here. 1 Thessalonians. It's a big topic. Everybody's touched on it. Famous people, writers. Where are you? Thessalonians. If I were to make one change to the Bible, I would put, I always think that 1st and 2nd Timothy should come first before 1st and 2nd Thessalonians. I always look that in that direction, and I'm always like, what? Just flip those books around, we're golden. But yeah, I just feel like 1st and 2nd Timothy should be first, and then that. 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 and verse 13 says, "But I would not have you to be ignorant, brethren, concerning them which are asleep, that ye sorrow not, even as others which have no hope. For if we believe that Jesus died and rose again, even so them also which sleep in Jesus will God bring with him. For this we say unto you by the word of the Lord, that we which are alive and remain unto the coming of the Lord shall not prevent them which are asleep. For the Lord himself shall descend from the heaven with a shout, with a voice of an archangel, and with a trumpet of God, and the dead in Christ shall rise first. Then we which are alive and remain shall be caught up together with them in the clouds to meet the Lord in the air, and so shall we ever be with the Lord. Wherefore comfort one another with these words." There is life after death. We have proof from the Bible. We have proof from the Creator. One more verse, Revelations chapter 20. There is life after death. It just depends on which destination you will be arriving at. The first one is a little bit more comforting for Christians. Say, hey, if you believe Jesus and you're a Christian, you'll see him again and you'll be with him in heaven forever. Revelations chapter 20 and verse 11 says, "And I saw a great white throne, and him that sat on it, from whose face the earth and the heaven fled away, and there was found no place for them. And I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were opened, and another book was opened, which is the book of life. And the dead were judged out of those things which were written in the books, according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged, every man according to their works. And death and hell were cast into the lake of fire. This is the second death. And whosoever was not found written in the book of life was cast into the lake of fire." Boom. There is life after death because God said so. There's two destinations, heaven and hell. And it depends what you do here in this life, which direction you're going to be going. Will you be going to heaven as a Christian if you believe Jesus Christ? That's the best option. Or if you don't, you reject him, you're going to go to hell. And boy, you'll regret that for the rest of your eternity life. So those are topics. Those were ones I've seen online. There's other topics, big topics and stuff, but those were just ones that came to my mind, and I was writing them down that I see people argue and fight over. But as a Christian, yes, there are hard things as a Christian, but there are a lot of things where it's like it's so simple. I don't have to sit there and debate or find a smart person or somebody sitting on a hilltop and say, "What do you think about this? What's the meaning of life?" I can literally look at the Bible. Jesus made it so simple. Gave us a book. We can read about it, and he says, "This is what I want you to do," or "Don't do this." And be like, boy, it's so simple. I don't have to sit there and fight with people or put them in a headlock, and give them a noogie and say, "You're not right about this." Even though we want to sometimes, especially with guys at work. All right, if there's no more questions, we're a little bit over, but we'll end it. So remember, it's easy being a Christian still, right? All right, let's close out here. Dear Jesus, thank you for this time.